Have you ever stepped into a place so intensely alive that it feels like the volume of the entire world was suddenly turned up to 11? A place where your senses are hit all at once by flashing neon, competing bass lines, and the smell of sizzling street food?
I know exactly what you mean. It is that instant sensory overload where you do not even know where to look first. You are just swept up in this massive, pulsing wave of human energy. For many travelers, that exact feeling happens the moment they set foot on Bui Vien walking street in Ho Chi Minh City. It is legendary, chaotic, and definitely not for the faint of heart.
It really is like a rite of passage for anyone visiting Vietnam. But it can also be a massive culture shock, especially if it is your very first night in the country. That was exactly the case for a traveler named Mark, who flew in from Australia. He wanted to experience the famous nightlife, but he ended up getting a crash course in street smarts.
Mark's story is actually the perfect blueprint for anyone trying to navigate that environment. He arrived on a Saturday night, checked into his hotel, and walked straight into what people call the backpacker street. He described it as stepping through a portal into another dimension. On one side, you have bars blasting EDM, on the other, live rock music, and in the middle, thousands of people sitting on tiny plastic chairs right on the pavement, clinking beers.
It sounds incredibly democratic in a way. You are sitting shoulder to shoulder with people from all over the world, drinking a beer that costs less than a cup of coffee back home. Mark apparently made friends within 5 minutes of sitting down. But that high-energy, open atmosphere can also make you let your guard down, right?
Exactly. When you are having fun and chatting with new friends, you stop paying attention to your surroundings, and that is when the environment can catch you off guard. The first major lesson Mark learned, and one that every traveler needs to hear, is about protecting your belongings. When a street gets that crowded, physical contact is inevitable. You are bumping into people constantly.
Right, and it is not always accidental. Pickpocketing is a real art form in crowded tourist hubs.
Absolutely. People often keep their phones in their back pockets or leave their bags hanging loosely on the back of their chairs. Mark noticed quickly that the locals and experienced travelers keep their bags zipped and worn securely across their chests. And there is also the issue of drive-by phone snatching. If you are standing near the edge of the street taking a photo, a passing motorbike can swipe your phone right out of your hand in a split second. You have to hold it with both hands and stay aware of the curb.
It is wild to think about how fast it happens. You are looking at your screen, and the next second, it is gone down the street on a scooter. But what about the things that happen right at your table? I heard Mark ran into some confusing situations with his bill at the end of the night.
This is a classic trap that catches so many newcomers. You sit down, order a drink, and suddenly the server places a small plate of peanuts or some wet wipes on your table. You did not ask for them, but they are just there, so you use them. Then, when the bill arrives, you realize you have been charged for every single one of those items.
It feels a bit sneaky, but I suppose from their perspective, it is just a service they provide for a fee. How do you handle that without causing a scene?
It is all about setting boundaries early. If a server brings out snacks or wet towels you did not order, you just smile, shake your head, and politely tell them to take them back right away. The same goes for the menus. In some of the larger venues, especially if you order things like shisha or specialty cocktails, the prices can escalate quickly. Always double-check the menu prices before you say yes, and review the bill before handing over your cash. It saves you from that awkward, frustrating realization at the end of the night.
That makes sense. It is just about being an active consumer rather than a passive one. Now, let us talk about the logistics of getting there and back. Bui Vien is technically a walking street, but anyone who has been to Saigon knows that traffic rules are more like suggestions.
That is a very polite way to put it. Yes, even when the street is closed to cars, motorbikes still manage to weave through the crowds, especially in the side alleys. But the real challenge is leaving the area late at night. If you try to flag down a random taxi parked right outside the clubs, you are highly likely to get hit with an inflated, unmetered price.
So, what is the alternative? Are the ride-hailing apps reliable in that chaos?
They are definitely the safest and cheapest option, but you have to use them smartly. Because the center of the street is blocked off or too crowded for vehicles, a driver cannot get to you. Mark learned that the hard way, waiting for a ride that could never reach him. The trick is to walk a few minutes away from the main strip to a major intersection, like Con Quin or Tran Hung Dao, and set your pickup point there. It is much easier for the driver to find you, and you pay the exact price shown on the app.
That is a solid tip. It avoids that stressful negotiation at 2 in the morning when you are tired and just want to go sleep. What about the street vendors? I imagine the sheer volume of people trying to sell you things can be overwhelming. You have people selling souvenirs, food, even kids doing fire spinning tricks right next to the tables.
It is a constant stream of stimulation. You cannot sit for 5 minutes without someone offering you sunglasses, snacks, or a massage. The key here is consistency and politeness. If you are not interested, do not hesitate or look unsure. Just make eye contact, smile, shake your head, and say a clear no thank you. If you start examining an item or let them place it in your hand, they will naturally assume you want to buy it, and it becomes much harder to say no.
It seems like a delicate balance. You want to support the local economy and appreciate the hustle, but you also want to enjoy your conversation without constant interruptions.
Exactly. And most of the vendors are just trying to make a living, so keeping things respectful is important, but you also have to protect your own peace of mind. If you handle it with a smile and a firm boundary, everyone wins.
Looking at all of this, it makes me wonder about the broader picture. Why do places like this exist in almost every major travel destination? We see them in Bangkok, in Prague, in Bali. Why are we drawn to this kind of chaotic energy when we travel?
I think it is because these places offer a raw, unfiltered look at a city's nightlife culture. It is loud, it is messy, and it is completely different from the sanitized, predictable tourist spots we often find in guidebooks. There is a certain thrill in navigating that chaos and coming out the other side with a story to tell. It feels adventurous, even if it is highly commercialized.
That is a great point. It is a shared human experience. You might not remember the quiet dinner you had in a hotel restaurant, but you will definitely remember the night you sat on a tiny plastic stool, drank a cheap beer, and watched a fire spinner while motorbikes zipped past.
Precisely. It is about the memory and the stories. Mark actually said that despite the initial shock and the minor frustrations, that night was one of the absolute highlights of his trip. The energy was infectious, and the people he met were incredibly welcoming.
So, the takeaway here is not to avoid these places, but to go in prepared. Keep your bag close, check the prices, book your rides through apps, and learn to say no with a smile. If you do those things, you can focus on enjoying the spectacle.
Well said. Travel is all about stepping out of your comfort zone, but you do not have to leave your common sense behind when you do. A little preparation turns a potentially stressful night into an unforgettable adventure.
That is a perfect note to wrap things up on. For anyone planning a trip to Saigon, keep these lessons in mind, embrace the chaos, and stay safe out there. Thanks for sharing these insights today.
My pleasure. Safe travels to everyone listening, and see you next time.